I'm Olivia Carson.
And I'm Kenzie McLean.
And welcome to
Q&A. Gay.
Oh, hell yeah, that went a lot better than I thought it would.
We're going to answer some of your most pressing questions about being gay.
We got all of these from students at Highland High. I went around with paper bags that said Q and gay on it. And I was like, questions please. And we got a few. So
here we are. And we really only got one question that was at all kind of accusatory, I guess. So we wanted to start off with that one. So this is actually two questions. So part one. What makes you credible to speak for the community you are representing? Do you want to talk about that, Olivia?
I actually talked about that in the paper that I turned in before doing this podcast, saying, and I was asked this exact same question, but in a more professional setting, academic, if you will, and saying, well, I sure hope I am, considering that I am of the queer persuasion.
I think that's a really good point. I also want to point out that, I speak for myself. I don't speak for every other queer person.
Oh, that is true.
So...
Yeah, because we got a lot of gender questions. Not a lot. We got two. But it's enough to be like, Jeebs.
There are definitely subjects that I know more about and subjects that I know less about. But, yeah, we're going to do our best. But, we speak from our own experiences and no one else's.
Yes.
So then the second part of this accusatory question was, how do you know that you aren't gratifying your own passions by labeling it as love?
Isn't that what love is, though?
I feel like that is what love is. It's just like being passionate about something.
Yeah, it's like gratifying your own passions. It's literally like being, loving something.
I think that's what straight love is. I think that's what platonic love is. I think that's what queer love is.
Even if you, really like a Netflix show, it's what it is.
You're just passionate about that Netflix show.
Damn.
So, yeah. The rest of the questions are pretty positive.
Yeah, where do you want to start? We got different sections.
We have a bunch of different piles. So, Olivia, I will let you choose.
Okay, well, half the piles I can't reach, so I think we'll start with one of these advice questions. We should have put them down. I don't want to see these damn questions. Second question, have you ever been scared for your life?
I personally have not, but I'm also very lucky in that regard.
It is. It's very true. We're both very average-looking people. We don't look, it's gonna sound very weird, but we don't look queer to the outside or the untrained eye. Let's be real, you dress like a big old lesbian.
I do dress like a big old lesbian. I'm sitting here wearing mom jeans and a plaid flannel shirt, but that is the extent to which I look queer.
And I'm wearing a Subaru sweatshirt.
Listen, honey.
Listen.
But really though, I have been fortunate to grow up in a fairly liberal part of Utah. As liberal as Utah gets is Salt Lake. And so while I've felt very threatened, I've never felt scared for my life.
Yes. And I've known people who feel like they are out, but they don't have a choice to be out.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
we got a question about is the gay accent real? And it's it's people definitely have a preconception of what gay people sound like, and that doesn't actually mean that the person is gay, but sometimes that is enough for people to act on that and be a bully.
Absolutely it is. And I do know people who genuinely have been kicked out of their homes or who have been physically threatened for being gay.
Or trans or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah. That's a big deal. Are we done with that?
I think so.
Okay. Straight people questions.
Alright, so this question says, what can we do to make you more comfortable in the school setting?
Leave us the freaky alone.
No, I think my answer to this question is just treat people like people.
Yes, and that means if someone's in a queer relationship, don't be like, I'm so proud of you, you guys are so brave, because that's still singling us out. It's it's kind of weird to have someone come up to me and be like that, even though they're trying to be positive. It's still kind of why you know.
Why did you feel the need to comment on me?
Well, first of all, yeah. Anything?
The only other thing I'd say about this is stand up for people. Like, if you hear someone making a homophobic joke, call them out on it. I think that straight people calling you on that has power to some people that a gay person calling them on it wouldn't, because you're a member of their tribe, so to speak.
Oh yeah, I like that. I'm trying to think of anything else. Yeah, and like try to be more aware of how you talk, because I know that some people were raised in a way where making a gay joke is, or like a homophobic joke is like fine, and you gotta like monitor yourself so that you know you kind of have to like think about how it's gonna affect if someone that you're making a joke about was actually in the room.
I think that's a really good way of saying it, because I've had people make fairly homophobic jokes to me not knowing that I was gay, and then it puts both of us in a really awkward position because they think it's funny and I'm, you know, the one who is the butt of the joke and they don't even realize.
Okay, next question. What are your experiences dealing with judgment from others?
So my big thing on this one is people will say to you, now, we're not judging you. But that's a lie. They absolutely are. You come out to someone and they're like, you know, we may not agree with your lifestyle, but we love you, which is a fancy way of saying, I think that you're wrong and a sinner, but I'm going to pretend like I have the moral high ground here.
Oh, yes. I get that a lot. And, like, even when you're in, like, Sunday school, all the time, they're like, they always bring up the lifestyle, like, the behavior versus the attraction argument. Gotta love it. It's a classic.
It is a classic.
It's a classic. I actually have a story about this.
Do tell.
I wrote a paper on this. I love writing papers on this. I was in 8th grade, and you know the Percy Jackson series? You know the second series? The ones with, like, the significantly longer books?
Yeah.
I loved those. I read all of them. What are they called?
That's
Heroes of
understandable.
Olympus. Heroes of Olympus books.
Okay. They were really good.
They were really good, and I was, like, one of those people who always read it, like, the day they came out. I went to the store in the morning, like, before school started, I went to Walmart, and I grabbed my copy, and I was there with my book, and I was one of the cool kids. Anyway, spoiler alert, if you haven't read these, like, sorry, I'm gonna, like, spoil it.
This was like 6 years ago,
This
so
was-
get on it.
I'm sorry. So 8th grade was the year House of Hades came out. And so it came out, and there's this character, Nico, and he's been in the books since, like, the 3rd ever book. You know? 2nd?
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone loves him.
Yeah, everyone
He's a
loves
child, and I love him. An edgy, little edgelord, Hot Topic looking boy. Anyway, so it was, like, almost this scene, I had to reread it, and it was, like, almost stressful rereading it, because it was, like, so, I hated it, and they had to, like, get this scepter from Cupid, and Cupid was being a little not nice person, and, I was, like, forcing Nico to come out to Jason, who was one of his friends, who's, like, the main character, and it was so stressful, and it, like, you can tell that he was just, like, hidden. It was, like, such a beautiful way that he wrote it throughout, like, the whole series. Anyway, I read that as a baby little, like, what was I, 13? I loved it. I was, like, this is even before I was, like, positive, though. I was still, like, maybe, I don't know. But before I was, like, positive. And, so I was reading it, and all my friends were reading it, and I got to that part, and my friends weren't to that part yet, and then there was this, like, really annoying kid who was like, well, you guys want to hear a spoiler? And I was like, he's gonna tell him that Nico's gay, and I know he is. I don't want him to, so I'm like, Cameron, shut up. Like, no one wants to hear that. And, like, no one wants to hear a spoiler. But he said it anyways, because Cameron's, no. I'm sorry, you don't even know who
We've
he
all
is.
known some.
We've all known Camerons before in our lives. So anyway, he tells him, and I was like, now that he told him, I was like, okay, well, how are they gonna react? And I looked at them, and, like, it was like quiet for a little bit, but then almost like instantly, after they, like, processed what was going on, they were like, oh. Like, that tinge in their voice, like, oh. And they're like, man, I really like that series. Why did you have to ruin it like that? Or like, oh man, Nico was my favorite. And I was like, like, come on, man. These were like my best friends in middle school, and they did that, and I was like, you know what?
I've definitely, one of the first people I came out to offered to pray with me to make me not gay anymore. And at the time, I was in such like a fragile place that I actually accepted that offer. And I really regret that now, because looking back, that was both the judgment of others, but probably more important, the judgment of myself. Like, I was in such a bad place that I judged myself that harshly, that I felt like God wanted me to change. And the judgment of others is what pushed me.
we were both raised Mormon, by the way.
And that was what, the judgment of others is what pushed me to feel that way.
Answered.
Bam!
Bam!
Alright, next question. Do you have advice for femme lesbians who feel alienated, like they have to change their aesthetic to fit the lesbian mold? I absolutely do. Can't see it, but I'm throwing this paper down in
Very
for emphasis.
angry.
I'm angry because for a long time I felt like I had to change who I was to fit the lesbian mold, and the reality is that you don't have to. So I was given some very powerful advice a while back. About half of the time I dressed like a stereotypical lesbian, but the other half of the time I dressed like a 40-year-old PTA mom, and there's no in between. And I was really self-conscious about this for a long time. I felt like I was somehow like doing a disservice to the queer community or something, but one day I was talking to my friend Adam, and I said, Adam, I feel like I'm not dressed like a lesbian. Like, these aren't lesbian clothes. And he looked at me and he said, you're a lesbian. They're your clothes. They're lesbian clothes. And I've carried that with me ever since. So just remember, you are a lesbian, so by definition the way you act is a lesbian way of acting.
It's so true.
You're valid just the way you are.
You're valid, bitch.
And also femme lesbians are really cute.
You're so right.
Alright,
Answered. Next question. What are you doing to push the gay agenda?
I'm just being my big fabulous self.
Big, fabulous self. Okay, no, I know the person who wrote this question, and it was a joke.
No, the serious answer is that I am loving myself and those around me.
That's the gay agenda. Spreading the love.
Love yourself.
The gay love.
Love yourself.
Accept yourself. Love yourself. What are you doing to push? Yeah, that is the gay. Yeah. That's the gay agenda. It's loving yourself and others.
You're so right.
Answered.
Alright, here's our next question. If bi people are in a serious straight relationship, are they still bi?
Listen. As a bisexual, yes, they're still bi. Of course they. What kind of a question is that?
It's like if someone said to you, I like the color blue and the color red, and they were wearing a red shirt, and you're like, you goddamn liar, you can only like one color. And you're wearing red at the moment, and so you can only like red. Okay.
So, my mom is happily married to my dad, who both of them I love. But my mom has a big old crush on Colin Firth. The love of her life. But does that make her not love my dad? No. In straight context, this is my story for straights out there.
For the straights.
For the straights. I wanted someone to ask the question, why do gay people use straight as an insult?
We don't. Not seriously.
Not seriously. Like, we're not gonna disown our children for being straight. That's why we can make jokes about it. You know?
I feel like we've answered this question.
Answered. Next question. Is using rainbows gay appropriation?
No. Oh my god.
Oh my god. No, I love rainbows. Use rainbows all you want. Lisa Frank, yes.
Listen, we're all out here trying to be as fabulous as we can, so just do whatever you want.
Be Lisa Frank.
You're
I don't
so
actually know what Lisa Frank looks like.
Me neither.
I always assumed it was like a 28-year-old question mark.
I don't know. Off the top of my head.
Oh, now I gotta look it up. Now I gotta research here.
Lisa Frank is 63, everyone. I'm glad we cleared that up.
I mean, like, Lisa Frank's been around for a while.
You know what? Even old people can be fabulous. I think that's the takeaway here.
Now I gotta know what she looks like.
Okay, I'm declaring this question answered, though. Alright, next question. How did you know you were not straight, and how did you finally accept yourself? I knew I was not straight because there was this really cute soccer player in my world history class in 10th grade, and despite the fact that I had been having crushes on girls since I was like 8, that was the girl who finally got me to admit that to myself.
Aww.
How did you know you weren't gay? You weren't straight. How did you know you weren't straight?
There was this girl, it was one of my friends, and the same friend who dissed on Nico, by the way.
Oof.
So I thought
oof.
she was cute. Though I hated her as a person, she was one of my friends, and she wasn't a good person, and I didn't like her, but she was dang pretty. So I was like,
We've all been there.
If you weren't the person you were, I'd go on a date with you. And then, but freshman year, there was this girl in my English class, and oh my gosh, I had such a crush on her. And then my sophomore year, like literally a week before I moved away to Salt Lake, we started becoming friends.
Oh no.
And then I had to move, but I follow her on Instagram. It's all good.
Oh, fantastic. The second part of that question was, how did you finally accept yourself?
I never really, which is weird because I did live in in Cedar City, Utah, which isn't the most accepting place, but I was always kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's whatever.
For me, it was kind of a long journey. I definitely started off with a lot of self-hate, but over the years, I think I realized that my religion could say whatever it wanted, but I personally myself didn't feel like there was anything wrong with being gay.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though it took me a really long time to realize that and to internalize that, I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay. And so that's how I accept myself.
Yeah. And okay, even now sometimes, because I am bi, if I have a crush on a girl and I look at a guy, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cute. Oh, he's kind of cute. I'll be like, wait, but I'm gay. But wait, I'm not. But wait, there's more.
And for me, sometimes there will still be, homophobic thoughts that come up. I'll see a girl, and I'll be like, oh, she's so cute. And then I'll be like, that's, that's bad. You can't think that. And then I think to myself, hey, shut up. I do what I want, and being gay is just fine. And I am working on getting rid of that internalized homophobia. So it's a process.
Yeah. I also think that sometimes, because I was reading this book with a bi main character, and I his love interest is a guy, but every time he talks about being with a girl, my brain is wired to think, oh, that's before he knew he was gay. And I was like, wait, excuse me, no. And my brain, I have one brain, and then I have my other brain who's like, excuse me, wags finger, no.
That's very much how I feel. There is a small and shrinking part of me that's being gay is gross and bad, but then the much larger and much louder part of my brain is hey, no, that's wrong.
I know, and you can
and that's the part I listen to, and so that part's getting big.
Yeah, someone said something to me was okay, you can think of you can think something bad, but the thought that comes after that is what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
You can have a negative thought, but it's your response to that negative thought that defines who you are.
Yes. Answered. Okay. Next question. This is for Mackenzie because, sadly, I don't think I can answer this. You're hitting the glass with your watch. Sorry.
This question is, how do I get a girlfriend? The answer is, if you're like me, you get really, really lucky.
Yeah,
and
super
you find,
lucky, not even joking.
And you find someone really amazing. But the serious answer is, have self-confidence. Put yourself out there, and if you like yourself and you project that, and you are a confident, fun person, then you'll find someone who you click with eventually. And it does take a long time. Like, I've had plenty of people who I went on dates with and it just did not work out, but
including I went on a date with Mackenzie's significant other now. Like,
you did, like, a couple months before we ended up getting together.
And I was like, oh, that's fun, but, like, I wouldn't date them. Mm-hmm. And then Mackenzie dated them, and I was like, what? So, yeah, just, like, don't think that...
Not every person you...
Not everyone's gonna be your cup of tea, and you're not gonna be everyone's cup of tea either.
And that's just fine. You gotta find someone who you click with.
Yeah. Answered. Be surprised.
Next question. What is the proper term to call the gays?
Okay, listen. If you're straight and you say the words the gays, everyone's gonna laugh at you.
Mm-hmm. And, like, dear God, call us anything but the gays.
And, like, gay people can call us the gays because, yeah, we are the gays. It's like a cool little club.
I have heard someone speaking to my entire congregation of people who I went to church with talk about the gays and how problematic they were in society, and so, like, we can use that term kind of jokingly, but we would appreciate it, at least me and Olivia here would.
Yes.
If you did not, because the reality is that for too many straight people, it is not a joke.
Yes.
It is something that they take very seriously.
And that's, like, genuinely the way that they address us, and I'm like, no, just like, don't. Because usually when it comes out of someone's mouth, they always got something to say. They're always gonna, like, clap back in some way. I'm like, I'm not, like, don't be that person.
Yeah, and so, like, you may be using it in a joking way, and you probably aren't intentionally using it hurtfully, but there is a lot of negative rhetoric associated with that term.
And I'd also, like, just along this question, like, why people use the word queer. Because, like, even I grew up in a place where, like, people use queer as an insult all the time. But I prefer to use the term queer to, like, both identify and just, like, kind of say, oh, the queer community. Because, hey, it's a nice umbrella term, because, like, you can use gay as an umbrella term for most, like, romantic.
But then it can get a little bit confusing. Like, some bi people are comfortable using the term gay sometimes, some bi people are not. And so I think for a lot of people in the LGBT community, queer is a really good umbrella term.
But again, a lot of people in the queer community don't like using the word queer because it has a negative history.
It does have a really negative history. So
I like to use it. I don't know why. I just like to put that in there.
It's a really good way for me of saying it's kind of complicated.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, if you are confused of someone's identity, like, ask them?
Yeah, and so, like, in general, I would say you're usually safe to either say LGBT people or the queer community, but if you're looking to address a specific person, just ask them. Ask them what they're most comfortable with.
Definitely.
We got another question along similar lines about asking for someone's pronouns, and I think that's the same kind of rule. Just ask people. There's
not, like, an unspoken code. You just say, oh, like, even in the queer community, it's like, oh, what are your pronouns?
Yeah, like, we might be having a conversation and say, oh, hey, I never asked, what are your pronouns?
Yeah, or even, like, if you're talking about someone, because I remember I was talking to Mackenzie about their significant other, and I was like, oh, what are their pronouns? Like, what do they like to be called?
So I use the pronouns she, her, but my significant other uses the pronouns they, them. And so we both respect that. We both respect each other's pronouns, just like the way you would assume anyone would.
Mm-hmm. Answered. Question,
who knows?
Why do I always say, like, it's gonna be a number, like we've been keeping track? No.
We absolutely have not.
Next question. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
I don't think I have a favorite color. I do like colors more than others, but, like, you know.
There it is, I guess. Answered. Alright, next question. This one reads, are you afraid that choice is the wrong choice?
Capital A, afraid.
Why? And so first of all, before I answer this question, I would like to point out, are you afraid that choice is the wrong choice? It's not a question. But I think what they meant is, are you afraid that your choice is the wrong choice? And the answer is that I am not. I spent a long time being afraid that it was, but I am not afraid anymore because I have realized that there is nothing different with my relationship with my significant other than anyone else's relationship with their significant other. Like, there is absolutely no difference in, like, my choice versus anyone else's choice, except that it's better because I'm involved.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say it's better because it's gay.
It is better because it's gay, that's true.
Yeah, it's right.
Olivia, are you afraid that choice is the wrong choice?
No, I'm afraid your choice is the wrong choice. First of all,
Ooh.
write that question the way it was. No, like, yet again, I'm just like, I'm very unopinionated. I'm like not a very aggressive person. So when people are like, you should be wrong, I'm like, no. And I'll be like, okay, bye. Like a lot of my answers to questions like, oh, what was the hardest thing? Like, what's it like to be like picked, like discriminated? And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I used to care about it a lot more than I do now. At this point in my life, like, I've had it happen so often.
And you hear about it all the time, and you're just like, you're just kind of like, I don't care.
You just gotta learn to brush it off. People will say rude things to you. People will say rude things about you, and like, you know, screw them.
Yeah. Even in my paper that I wrote about the paper that I wrote about the book about my friends being mean. But at the end, no, I was like, I could be mad. I could have held a grudge against those people my entire life, but I'm not, because they were middle schoolers, and middle schoolers are, first of all, dumb. Second of all, don't know what they're talking about a lot of the times. And third of all, dumb.
And
So,
you know what I did in middle school?
what?
I had a gay person who I knew, who I went to school with, and I remember distinctly telling him the words, I don't think being gay is right, but I think you should have the right to do it. And in my mind, this was a very progressive statement, but I look back and like, I am so sorry, Tucker. I am so sorry. I was such an idiot. And so I like to believe that a lot of the people who have said mean things to me have also grown and changed as people. Maybe they've also discovered that they too are gay.
Is that answered?
I think that's answered.
Answered. Don't care. That's your answer. Next question. What's your gender identity, and explain it, please? Thank you for the please.
Thank you for your politeness. We here at the Q and Gay
Headquarters,
value
which is
politeness.
my living room. It's not even like the main living room. It's the really small one upstairs.
My gender identity, I identify as female, but they asked for an explanation, so I am a fairly masculine person, but I identify as female, and so what that means is that my identity is female, but I like to present in sort of a more masculine way, so I'll wear like male shirts sometimes, or I will, intentionally wear sports bras.
Intentionally, like you accidentally wear a sports bra.
Good point. But still, like, you know what I mean. I prefer to present in a way that's at least somewhat androgynous, but my identity is still female.
Yes. And I would say that I'm female, but like, also when I think about it, I just like to be, when I think about the concept of gender, I'm not like super concrete. Like if you call me, I'm
concrete. Like
let's be real about this. If you are actually like part of the queer community and you think about your own gender, you're like, eh.
I feel like that's true for a lot of people.
Because like last year, I was like thinking about this. It like made me question everything. And I was like, do I want to, like, am I trans? Like, what is going on with myself? And I think that that's a very important thing to do. Like, they always say, oh, don't pretend that something's a phase. I'm like, you can still question yourself.
You can absolutely question yourself. For a really long time, I questioned whether or not I was non-binary, and, that took me several months to figure out. And the conclusion I've come to is probably not. But
again, don't care.
Olivia here doesn't care. I don't
care.
I tend to care more about things, so I have definitely.
You're better for this.
I have spent a really long time thinking about it, like over the course of years. Like this is something I've wondered about since I was maybe 10 or 11, and so my gender identity is female, but it's kind of fuzzy, and I think that's where a lot of people lie.
Yeah, and I was like, honestly, if someone wanted to. Like, people ask you prefer pronouns, and I wouldn't be offended if someone, like, used not she, her, if, like, didn't use she, her. I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm not gonna be like, excuse me? Again, angrily wags their finger, excuse me? I know she, her. I wouldn't be, I know. And again,
plenty of people do have like a really, really solid understanding of their gender identity. And plenty of people...
And a lot of people, like, spend years of their life just be, like, trying to understand. And it's like, again, it's another one of those things that you can't fake. Because even us, too, we, like, questioned it. We, like, really thought about it. And it, like, came back that, oh, we you know, we're pretty okay being female. Like, being girls.
But plenty of people don't get that answer. Plenty of people get that they are non-binary or that they are transgender.
And that's something that you can't make
valid.
up, and that's something that is part of you.
It is absolutely, and you should respect people's pronouns when they are those things.
Yes. Again, I'm not very good at answering these questions. I'm very like, don't care. Answer,
It goes
don't
back
care.
to the gay agenda. Respect yourself and others.
Respect yourself. Love yourself.
Accept
Respect yourself. Love yourself.
Anyway.
Answered.
Damn.
Next question. I'm demisexual and people act like it's not a real identity. What are good ways to raise awareness for identities that are constantly erased? Okay.
So I'm comfortable with the term lesbian, and I feel like we get a lot of exposure. So I think Olivia should answer this question because bi people tend to be more on the end of this.
And like, listen, bisexual is still like more known than demisexual. I feel like a lot of people don't know what that is. I want to give a definition of demisexual, but I can't remember off the top of my head. A good way. It's like, isn't it like
You only experience sexual attraction once you're emotionally close to someone.
which I feel is how it works anyway, but
I think that,
it is definitely,
you know, it's not, I may not fully understand this identity, but it's not my place to police what someone else says they're feeling. I have no idea what this person is feeling. And dear whoever wrote this question, like, you're perfectly valid, you know? I may not understand it, but I don't have to understand it to respect you.
Okay.
And to respect your experiences.
Back to the question. To raise awareness of identities that are constantly erased. Like, just talk about it. Like, don't be afraid to say, oh, I'm demisexual, and don't be afraid to, like, explain it to people. Because I feel like people who have to, like, explain that they're gay or, like, lesbian, and people who ask, like, what does being gay mean? That's just them being, like, kind of ignorant. But if it's like, genuinely not a known sexuality or a known identity, especially with, like, a bunch of gender identities that can be very lost in the sauce.
It's true.
It's true. So definitely don't be afraid to talk about it constantly. Just say, oh, or, you know, just, like, if so, a lot of times my friend, you know which friend this is, called me a lesbian. And even though I'd be like, no, I'm not, I'm bi, they'd be like, okay, but, like, you still like girls. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that I'm a lesbian. And it's definitely just kind of, just, like, don't be afraid to talk out, like, speak up about it if you get mislabeled or if people are disrespecting you. Just, like, always, you know,
You
speak
have
out.
the right to, I don't know if right's the right word. You're entitled to have people use the labels that fit you correctly. That's part of what you get just as a human. You deserve that basic respect. And some people will probably give you flack for that. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy all the time. But I do think in the long run it's worth it.
Yes. And also, fun thing, if you're like me and you're planning on going into a field that makes you responsible for creating media that people will watch, because I want to be, like, a film director, I want to, like, make movies, use that platform, duh. Like, if you make art of, like, people who are demisexual, if you, like, make characters or you write stories, don't be afraid to, like, you know, put yourself in there, you know?
Embrace that representation.
Embrace it. Don't be scared. Answered. And that's all the time we have to answer all these questions. We got a lot of questions. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't think I would get, like, maybe 10. I don't know how many answered, but, like, we got a lot.
We have
got
a lot of
big
questions.
old pile.
We tried to sort of answer some that were common. So we may not have gotten to everyone's question, but
I enjoyed reading through all these questions, though.
I did. It was really informative for me to see the questions that people still have.
And it was really informative to me to see what kind of a bullshit setup I could figure out in 15 minutes.
Well, thank you for inviting me on your podcast. I've had a wonderful time.
You are part of the podcast. This is a duo. Can you imagine just me talking the entire time? That would never happen. Okay, thank you for listening.
This has been Q and Gay.
Q and Gay. Bye. Hey guys, this is Olivia Carson, the voice you've been listening to for the past fat minute. I'm just here to say a few big thank yous. I would like to thank Mackenzie McLean, my co-host, for helping me not sound dumb, and another big thank you to my friend Matthew Nielsen, who wrote the music that you've been listening to throughout this podcast. It's pretty cool. And another great big thank you for everyone who sent in questions. And you, the listener, who's been listening. We hope you enjoyed our podcast, and don't forget, keep pushing that gay agenda.